that. All right, thanks, David.
One thing I'd like to add about the portal with Dynamics 365 and online, when you get that, you get one portal free. So setting it up and provisioning it is pretty simple if you go with out of the box, but it gives you that multi-channel capabilities right away. It's pretty simple. And I think that's one of the key parts in here is thinking about how my customers can get a hold of me, and Microsoft has now made it easy to set up a portal. You have multiple portals, but the first one's free.
Was everybody able to hear that in the back? Yeah, multiple portals. First one's free. Okay. So next up, we've got Prashant Giridhar from Mazik, and he's going to go over the D365 operations. So let's see. I think I probably have. Yeah, there we go. Prashant.
I'm going to try to make that face like that. Thanks, Covenant, to provide me this opportunity to speak, and all of you to still sit and patiently listen to me over the next 30 minutes. So, my name is Prashant, and I've been working with ERP, CRM solutions for the past 2 decades. Spanned 4 continents, 28 countries, global implementations, and I try to bring a lot of those into digital transformation of organizations, big and small. So when we talk about the business applications, we're literally looking at systems of intelligence with Microsoft. So Microsoft has always been a leader in terms of breakthrough technologies, in terms of transforming the way organizations do business, in the way people go about their lives as well. So the key components of these are Azure, Dynamics, Office, and of course the operating systems of Windows. Right? So how does this all come together? When you look at an organization, there are different sections of these organizations. A lot of them have transformed. Kudos to Kim and team. It was great to look at enterprise go about their digital transformation journey, and they're truly visionaries in terms of how to adapt to technology and how to move forward in the new age. So essentially, we are looking at 3 core objectives. One is enhancing the customer experience, transforming to a digital business, and then becoming more responsive. Now, in today's world, everybody is about talking about digital transformation, and these age-old ERP systems cannot handle so much transformation overnight, and that's a given fact. So you need to be on a platform that is agile enough for you to help grow as you go with that particular digital transformation journey. So when you talk about enhancing customer experience, we've always had sales teams try to figure out a brand new data model, a brand new report on how to increase revenue, on how to change the sales forecast, on how to impress customers. But a lot of it has to do with just listening to your customers. A lot of this data of how you can improve your customer experience has to come from your experience with the customer and the customer narrating it in a digital form. And with the advent of Facebook, with Twitter, and a lot of other social media, customers vent their anger out, or they also vent their appreciation out. So you need to have a system that can bring all this together, that can improve your customer experience. Transforming to a digital business is probably a long-term goal, but then there are small steps that you need to start to take in order to get there. And then becoming more responsive is we've seen organizations create new roles. These roles being customer success managers. There's no sales directors anymore. They are all customer success managers. They are responsive. They are looking at Twitter, they are looking at hashtags, they are looking at Facebook posts that can reference their company to basically look at how that responsiveness can come about. So enhancing the customer experience is reimagining this whole customer journey. Can your customer buy for himself? Amazon is a great example for this, right? My 6-year-old kid wants a watch, and he said, Daddy, go on Amazon. You can find nice watches out there. So Amazon is not selling to me. The organization is not selling to me. Customer is buying from the organization. And the way this has transformed is purely because of digital technology. You cannot find a lot of ads that a 6-year-old can watch about Amazon. But he's just learning from the ecosystem that he's in. The same applies to the digital organizations as well. Business needs to learn from the ecosystem. And how can you do that? I'll talk a little bit about those tools that Dynamics 365 brings into the ERP or the business application systems. So the state of market is by 2020, customer experience is going to overtake price or product. People are going to start to buy the most liked product on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. They're not going to buy a phone because it's cheap. They're not going to buy a product because it's superior. They're only going to buy a product that a lot of people have liked. 40% of the productivity goes in tasks. They're just switching from one application to another application to prepare a report, to compile this data set, to do an action to the business. And that costs close to about $450 billion a year. Speed of business. Organizations on the digital transformation make 100 million more. I mean, the greatest example was today with enterprise. They just grew $2 billion in a year just because they are on the journey of digital transformation. So if you look at transforming the business, the primary objective is to engage your customers, empower your employees, optimize your business, transform your products. Now let's look at a little bit more inside here. Traditionally, there have been two buckets of this business application. There's a CRM and there's an ERP. But what Dynamics 365 is all about is basically merging both of them and making them into purpose-built applications. So the CRM is now Dynamics 365 Sales. What we called as Project Service Automation is now Dynamics 365 Project Service Automation. There's a Field Service Automation. There's a Finance and Operation, and then there's a Marketing plus Adobe. All of these applications together are Dynamics 365. So when you look at a purpose-built application, start with what you need and grow as you progress through your journey. So Dynamics 365 for Sales that we've been listening to all afternoon is all about how you can take incremental steps through this process. I think we had a question about, what do we do about the data? What is the capacity of data? What is the security? Are you integrating it with your procure to pay cycle? Are you integrating it with your customer product profitability process? So these purpose-built applications let you grow at your own pace. Productive, familiar tools. Most of the recent generation, I consider myself a little older now, but there's a lot of people who don't have hair and a lot of gray hairs. But productivity is all about people using latest technology. If you are going into a university, people will not go to your organization and work for you if you're not digitally enabled. If you're saying that you're on an age-old mainframe or an AS400 system, people would not want to join your organization because they feel that they're going to be bogged down. So making productivity is a very big kind of progression in the digital transformation journey. It has to be intelligent, right? People more and more are task-oriented than process-oriented. I get my 14-year-old daughter to say, "Daddy, don't tell me the configuration. Can I press just this button and download the song on my phone?" That's all they need. They are task-oriented. Nobody understands the process behind it. Nobody understands the configurations behind it. You have to make it simple. You need an application that can configure on its own. The application lifecycle management is also important. It has to be adaptable. I heard David mention here that's the last upgrade that you'll ever need. It has to be adaptable. Dynamics 365 is all about having this 4 core pillars of how the application has transformed. Now, when you look at engaging your customers, personalized experiences across all, there's a very strong case study about how a customer's comment has transformed the automotive industry. A driverless car was never even ever imagined, but since Uber and all the other new digital inventions, the customer is thinking that what we saw in Star Trek about 4 decades ago is a reality now, right? And you have to empower your employees. We talked a little bit about that. They need to be familiar. They need to be mobile. They need to be able to access it on iOS, on Android, on Windows Phone, or any other phone operating systems. Optimize your operations. Production or manufacturing still works the same way that it has been for the last 100 years. You cannot substitute any digital process to it. But however, how the production takes place, how the planner works through his orders, his forecast, has definitely made a transformation. And that needs to be enabled so that you can get the information real time for when the product is ready to be sold. Transform your products. R&D is going through an innovation. Dynamics 365 combines itself with what we call as Azure intelligence or artificial intelligence that comes in. So a good example is a customer that we are working with, Leggett & Platt, whose story that I'm going to come. That's a 1883 company back in Missouri, a small town called Carthage, just about 15 miles from Joplin. They manufacture springs. They manufacture everything that's springs. But however, after about 25 years of their existing GIAC mainframe, they've decided to go the journey of Dynamics 365. That's the story here. And it's a very large organization, probably not as large as enterprise, but however, every spring that you've ever slept on is manufactured by Leggett, and they own the patent for spring. Every car seat that you've ever sat on is manufactured by Leggett. So these organizations, roughly about 20 different business units across 17 countries, adopted a single platform of Dynamics 365. And they're going to, on this journey, by 2020, they hope to have all of their businesses transformed digitally into the cloud. Who would think that a company like Peterson, who's a wood chipping machine, and their machines operate in jungles. They're out somewhere in Africa and somewhere in Australia. But however, we implemented a IoT system that generates sales orders for them. The machine talks to CRM, which basically says that there is this shaft that's going to go down in the next 3 months because of their usage. There is a part sales order already in the pipeline. Nobody has to call the customer to find out if they need a part. The system automatically orders it for them based on the IoT information that they're getting. This is the kind of digital transformation that Dynamics 365 enables organizations to move on to. So when we look at Dynamics 365 stack, on the top you see Microsoft App Source. So the App Source is much like where extensible apps. So if you want to do credit card transactions on your application, you don't have to build it into a customizable application. You don't have to invest in that customization because of the fact that it is in Azure and the certification is already available for it. It's a plug and play with Dynamics 365. Much like how an application is on the Windows App Store or on the iOS App Store that pre-authenticates every security information that you need. Similarly, on the left you have Office 365. Traditionally, ERPs have had a learning curve to learning the business application on how to enter an order, on how to enter a journal entry, for example. Office 365 itself is a user interface for Dynamics 365. You don't have to learn anything new. Use your Excel, bring an Excel template in. You get a new tab on Excel which says Dynamics 365. You can connect to the table and upload data. So similarly, you have customer insights, which is probably a mixture of CRM and business intelligence. And on the right, you have Cortana Intelligence and Azure IoT and the Power BI. Dynamics 365 does not require you to migrate years and years of historical information. I'm sure the technical folks from CDP and any other IT department here have spent about 60% of their implementation cost on migrating historical data. So with Power BI, we've never migrated any data set. We've only connected so that you can get a single report, which is the present information from Dynamics 365 compared with the past information from a SQL database that's stored on Azure. You never have to migrate both of these. Azure IoT is another example. At the bottom, you have a word called Microsoft Flow. Flow was never intended to the way that it actually came about to use. Flow is a workflow tool. You can practically put any business rule into the Microsoft Flow. And the good part about Flow is we talked about SharePoint a little bit ago. So if you have a business case to create a sales contract in Dynamics 365, you start with the prospect in sales, you convert it to an account in CRM, you have all the conversations out there. You then create a sales agreement in Dynamics 365 operations. You don't even have to integrate these two. The common data model takes care of it. The sales contract probably needs your legal team to interact with DocuSign to get a contract signed. Now, if you use Microsoft Flow, this whole chain is seamless. The business flow will make sure that you cannot certify a contract in operations which will impact your production without having a document signed in DocuSign. That's what the Microsoft Flow is all about. This is the new interface for people who've known AX or ERP. On the far right, I don't know how to use the pointer here, but on the far right you have an optimized UX, which is a HTML5. Now what that means is that you never have to install any application on your PC, laptop, tablet, or phone. This is running off of an Internet Explorer page. It can be used on Chrome, Safari, Firefox, or any one of those browser clients. On the middle you see a device template, which is probably a POS machine. And this POS machine can be configured with images, with buttons. All of these come by default as UI interfaces for Dynamics 365. On the right you see a workspace, which can again be configured by the user himself to look at data. And this data can be exported and imported from Excel just by using a function key called Control-T. He can take this data set, make his report in Excel, and make it a refreshable report and store it on his desktop. He can come back next morning, just refresh the data on Excel, he gets the latest information on the production management. It's about business process reinvention. Every one of these operation sets can go through a template. I'm sure if there are any CFOs here, the biggest problem that a CFO will face is a month-end closing, and that often takes like 7 to 10 days to be able to complete. But with with Dynamics 365 for operation, you can actually templatize that process. You can lock down people automatically from creating sales orders in a previous period. You can lock down payments, and all of these can automatically run. For example, your aging report can come in to your inbox at 6 a.m. 2 days before closing. All of these are out-of-the-box features. None of them need any customization. None of them need any additional services that you need to buy. All of them are part of Dynamics 365. Business Process Insight, the ERP and BI were considered to be two separate projects in the past, costing millions of dollars. But now you see on the right, this data is already in